Hey guys, in today's video, we're going to talk about the swing plane that no one's talking about that has a dramatic effect on how well you hit your irons. All right guys, so let's talk today about the swing plane. Now you guys have seen this practice station here before, but probably haven't seen it used as much for what I want to talk about today. Now, when I say no one's talking about this, I'm not saying that I made this up. This isn't my stuff, just something that I don't see a lot of videos or content around that really can make a drastic improvement on your contact. So let me explain to you what I'm doing here, what I'm practicing, and when I'm talking about this swing plane, what I'm talking about. Now, when you make a downswing, like my TrackMan and launch monitors will measure your swing plane in two different planes of motion. One of them is called a horizontal swing plane, which essentially is the plane you would see from down the line. That is, are you swinging to the right of the target? Are you swinging to the left of the target? So if you were sort of imagine the way your plane is tilted, that's one of them. The other thing it measures that doesn't get a lot of noise is the vertical swing plane. So that is, if I were to take my setup, the club, right, obviously because of the way it's designed, is on a certain angle from the ground. Now, if I were to make that angle go more up, or if I were to make the angle go more down, there's certain things that go along with that. This is the swing plane that I'm talking about here that we want to discuss, is the vertical component of the shaft. Not so much at address, but more so at the impact position. Now, when we watch, in a lot of the videos we analyze from down the line, when you watch good players from down the line, if you were to draw a line through the butt of the club at a address, the butt of the club typically would go about through the belt line, okay? That's about where the angle of the shaft is when they begin. The question mark is, where should it be when they get back to impact? Now, most players, most of the best golfers that I see, if that's their line, obviously your body's moving dramatically during the downswing, which changes part of it. Most of the best players that I see, that shaft at impact returns to the same angle, or typically it's just slightly more vertical. So it's about the same or a little bit more vertical. What I see all too often with players that I work with or with the online lessons is a shaft during the downswing that gets way too vertical or way too up and down. Now, usually what this is associated with is two things specifically. Number one, as the shaft gets more vertical, off-centered contact comes into play, usually toe shots, but I've seen it go either way, but typically more toe shots. I'll explain that in a minute. And also a difficulty squaring the club face, okay? So open club face shots to the right, both because the face is open and because of toe shots. So if I took a normal setup and the ball was in the middle of the club, if you were to imagine that I took the club and I made it go more straight up and down, you'll notice as I do that, the toe of the club, and the club in general, will come more towards me. I'm going to do that again. Here's my normal setup position. Okay, obviously there's other dynamics in the swing. This is just an example. As I make the shaft go more vertical, what happens to the club? Obviously it works more towards me. And that is essentially why those toe shots happen. Here's my normal setup, ball in the middle on this angle. If I make the shaft go more vertical, it makes the ball go more and more and more on the toe. That's part number one. That's why you get the toe shots, if this is you in this example. So how do we fix that? We have the shaft lower. We'll get to that. Part number two is just the angle of the club. So the loft of the club, as I take, again, I'll just go normal. As I make the club go more and more and more vertical, it makes the loft of the club point more and more and more to the right. It opens the face, if you will. In reality, it makes the loft point more to the right. That's why when you have a ball below your feet, sort of lie, right? The ball does what? It tends to go to the right. That's why. And the same thing applies then if I were to lower the shaft, it makes the loft of the club point more to the left, okay, or it closes the face. Again, that's why if you have a ball above your feet, typically the ball will go left. So those are the two pieces we're talking about here. I very rarely, in fact, I don't know if I've ever had someone come in who their shaft angle was too low. I don't remember ever having to correct that, so I'm going to skip over that, assuming that's not a thing. But I do have people where the handle's so high. What do we do about that? Well, for one, without this station, and then we'll put this in and I'll go through that. For one, what I like to do, because I'm someone too who has the shaft angle get too vertical, right? The pattern that also pops up and is an early extension pattern. For me, when I take my normal setup, and you people who early extend, during your downswing, when your pelvis kicks in towards the ball, your chest gets farther from the ground, your arms lengthen, and the shaft gets very vertical, you'll look like this. For me to get out of that, okay, obviously I want to fix the posture and pivot pieces, but I'm also feeling like at impact, like for me, I feel like at impact I'm like this, which is the shaft is super duper low. When I do that, it puts me in a good middle ground, I hit it solid. So for me, and I actually do this when I practice, I feel like I'm about here with my hands at impact. I'm going to go ahead and do one. So it feels dramatically lower to me than normal. Now again, when we were to measure that, if I measured on TrackMan, it only changed a few degrees, but that's all I really need. Normally I'm about like here at impact, and I want to feel like I'm lower. So I'm lowering the shaft angle. I'm going to go ahead and do that one more time. And that to me feels really, 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 really good. So if you're someone who early extends rather, that would be something I'd throw in too. If you can't fix your early extension pattern, right? If you've been trying to fix your early extension pattern for 10 years and you haven't fixed it, and you're going to go on the course, you can lower the angle of the shaft as a short-term way to help that. So how do you practice it? Well, there's two main ways we do that, and I think you might be able to just feel when you're swinging that you lower the angle of the shaft, and that may do it. But some things you can practice to do so. We have the bucket drill with the stick in. Now we've used this in previous videos for the other swing direction, getting you to swing more inside out, but it also works for the shaft angle. Now I'm going to put it in a pretty conservative place to start, just to explain here. So essentially, that's a little too conservative. Essentially when I put this in, I want to have the angle of the stick, right? It's more so a visual. I don't like to put this in. I've seen some people put it in where you actually put it like on the angle of the club to change the shaft angle during the downswing. You can. What I like to do is just have it more so as a visual. So it's not literally going to be in my way when I go, but the fact that my brain sees it there can help my feel. So I usually will put a stick behind me just like this, just to kind of get a sense of the club working in lower. This will be part number one. Again, this is super conservative at this spot. I can get that a little bit closer to me. And the setup for this is pretty similar to how you set up the drill for the how to hit a draw station or shallowing out the downswing. I'll make this one a little bit more aggressive. So same things, I'm sort of just putting that on an angle. And this one for me feels like that's going to be more in my way. And I'll feel the same pieces during the downswing. And that one actually I hit more solid than the one previously. So I'm going to do that one more time. And I'm getting a sensation when I'm doing this that again, instead of me being more here with the vertical shaft, I'm getting that shaft working much lower at and past impact. Go ahead and do that one more time. Now this feels in my way. And I hit it better when I do that versus the not as easy version. So I need to do that more difficult. So that's part number one. You could put an object behind you. So I put it far enough behind me I wouldn't hit it with my hands and put it my way. And the other way that I've done, and I do with people, is I just reverse this and I'll put it in front of me. So it works to do the same deal. So I'll take my normal setup, I'll put my golf ball here, I just flip sides, I keep this at about the same angle, and now for me to miss this, I have to feel like the club's still staying low, still feeling like it's less of a vertical angle, but now I'm feeling it past impact instead of before impact. It still fixes the same things. If you get too steep this way, this might be lesser for the guy who's over the top, and then vertical, and more for the guy that struggles with the early extension pattern or too far inside out when you do it. But the same principle applies. I'm going to feel like my shaft is lower at and past impact. Go ahead and give this a shot. It's in a pretty neutral position. And that feels about the same for me. That feels really good compared to my normal. I don't hit balls or practice enough, or else this would feel more normal, but that's for another video. So same thing. Shaft feeling lower at and past impact. Yeah, and those feel really solid for me. So that fixes it. This always fixes it for me. I just don't do it enough. But the bucket with the shaft in front or behind, again at an angle that's roughly above where the club would be when it's parallel to the ground on both sides, sort of a neutral, maybe 40-degree angle there, and play around with that, more so even just for a visual. So to recap, when you come in, if your shaft is too vertical, okay, usually you're gonna have toe shots and you're gonna struggle with squaring the face. To fix that, we wanna feel like your shaft angle is lower. Better players have a lower shaft angle almost across the board versus them being higher. To fix it, feel like the shaft is lower. Try that first. If not, then put these feedback stations in, get the shaft lower, get off the toe. It'll be easier to square the club face for you guys. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you guys like this video, please click the like button down below. Click the notification bell if you haven't. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And as always, if you guys have any questions, leave them down below.